abo apaunsma edu minu ena eda your friend is yawada ena ye 2025 September so edu enwotwe anopay medawase se odu afidi na to wonemi ebedi sedwuma ya your friend movement in the morning baby out medawase minim se radio ni doso TV ni doso na so what choose TV se woni e betna na woni yen edi sedwuma ye ni so dada okan ho na woni yen etusa anamuwe enoti yen so se we fa sa kwan so ni asom wo sompa na yasomu ensam bebre e wo Ghana ha esi edin ketia efiri ase ese oko thank you to na ebusia day 1 of the thank you to ni yendra na hu cars esi edin ketia enya President Mahama wo tia cars V8 money swine nyasam ketwa na ashafi abandisi mu so ye bekom na ye disa enkomo no sem edi aba endra CS computerized school placement system no oma shase ya adwuma se edi atum enti no obia nko cheke ne ba no enyaye na ohu kwan obefa so a obesi aye no enti awofo mu ma no be ko school ba se ya na ahokyere so aba ewo anade ba ti nyina mu no empa ebo no se awurade ebehwe owufu bia timi akọ through the process na bibia so awie mudim ti sawa hodo kan garam se nsem so egupo so entra yasi bishops conference afedi omo de crack aba abonten se foi afedi amunsori o Ghana so for munsori o Ghana so for munso na eyemunti ana John Mahama Ghana for say because mo na mo so John Mahama so amene waba galam say etu atisi ti afedi bishops conference as a Ghana for sorry so for munsori mon kasa without fear or favor mon kasa so for mon kasa afena mo etiate mo fremo enti sa so for be kasa so mon kasa o ebehwe na yedi ho enkomo na so abo apawnsema edu enum ebre edu se yedi dwudwam ede ebrew edi ndi Kwaku Dawuro di akonwa na tenase na ti dwudwama no pei so ede enam eti Eric Mpacho ibedi kan na yabo Samuel Okujeto Ablakwa ne video no eno na yedi ebesesa dwudwam no ye sha ase ya eho na ebe sha ase de afri yenkwe na yenkwe.
That whatever name you give it, when two countries come up with an arrangement on both of them, whether you call it a treaty, it requires ratification. It was a majority decision. Only one price was saying because an MOU, it means that it was very clear on the Guantanamo 3 that Article 75 was which says through Parliament, and you are a 4th-term MP, so at least you could have gone to Parliament. And you have a
no, I agree with you, and that is why I said at the press conference that when this is elevated beyond an MOU, an agreement, we will go to Parliament under Article 75 and have it ratified. At this point, it is just a loose understanding.
The agreement is enforced. But how can you enforce? How can you enforce something called a loose agreement? That is already enforced. You've brought 14. You're bringing 14.
Look, I've inherited so many MOUs that didn't go to Parliament for ratification, and
but because of the precedent of the legitimate 3, I felt like this was, and I think you know this. So is it an oversight? Are you going to apologize for it, or you don't think you made a mistake?
No, it's not an oversight because we sought the Attorney General's advice. It was discussed in Cabinet, and the Attorney General's advice and his counterpart, the Attorney General on the U.S. side, also said that look, this is an MOU, and MOUs do not require ratification. That is why
the Attorney General is wrong, because the judgment is clear. I can read it.
Oh, you know better law than the Attorney General?
At least the law is there for all of us to read. Unless the English reading of what the Supreme Court
see MOUs in that judgment.
The language of Article 75 is very clear. The article forms part of the set of provisions governing the role of the executive arm of government in Ghana's international relations. I'm reading the judgment.
Yeah.
The scope of the article deals with treaties in general. The side notes and the body of the text makes reference to treaties, agreements, and conclude that the instruments referred to relate to Ghana's international relations with other countries or groups, and the article requires that such instruments must be ratified by Parliament. The Constitution makes no mention of any formal distinctions that are dependent on the formality with which such an instrument is formatted or brought into being. Then it goes on to even list MOUs, etc. This is the judgment. This is Sophia Kufu. I'm not the one saying it. So I don't know whether I'm saying because the AG says, in fact, if the argument of the defendant in the state, the government, were to be taken seriously, that the transaction being by way of note verbal, executive agreement, memorandum of understanding, diplomatic note, or what have you, is merely an administrative one, then the question arises as to the exact status of the said persons now that they are in Ghana. Are they migrants? It's a long argument. It basically says, once two countries agree on something of that nature, Parliament must ratify. It's very clear.
We are working with the Attorney General's advice, and the Attorney General's advice is that when this is elevated to an agreement, it can be ratified. At this point, there is no need for ratification. So that.
All right. Eric Medasi. Abusia video amoshe ye Ghana Foreign Affairs Minister friend Samuel Okujeto Ablakwa. Na Oko Bernard Avle shows wo City TV. Anacha no One TV. Ene omukudi enkomo. Na one of the questions abaye eye insem bi a aba Ghana for ka ho asem na senkrofo adwen shedan ko ho. And they say against this year Ghana buying aqua pam say or the some omakoye eniamo ho nsem bi wa America omuntimi ntra America ho na ope baby di omakwa koguo Ghana buying aqua giatum say odiomba be guye maimu yaso omo ya about 250 na 250 no 250 no emu 14 edikan ababedu ena emu 40 enso enam kwan so na akadodo nso a ebeba akiri Ghana for shall say bisa questions say adenti na deal no ankopa because as I say ankekwa parliament na parliament agitum and sadie we ebiasi na eye John Mahama na mamu edikan no ena okokwa je enkrofo bi ba krom ase mu bekan a na omo ye yemen form yinu bi ana omo Guantanamo Bay ewo America ho a ye de omo ebaye na Ghana for ye pe edi 20 ye to omo din gitmo 2 na omo baye no omo so say ya John Mahama ban no efa sebo akwan so ekwaji omo koda edbe wuro man ni mu ekire na ho do ena Henry na naboache na nabi any Arabi a friend of Margaret Banfo, Echo Supreme Court, Echo Catcher Supreme Court say, yet the true and proper interpretation of Article 75. Because your phone say, a quiet John Mahama, Afaso Aji Enipa Ganemono, one fa emra kwanso. Supreme Court exnase, Judge Fonson, Mame Sophia Kufu, and I know your presiding judge. 6 of the justices can say a kwanya ma John Mahama Faso, a G in the Panabo Memono, one family quanso, Entino, a Yenema Minu, either say Besadi Omako, and now say, Obediweko Parliament, na Parliament, a ratify sa agreement. No, Onipa Bako, and na Udi Santis are ruling, Munipako, Justice William Matuguba, say, and your one, no dear, and your there will be dissented. Now, before that, na Supreme Court, and the kind of rulings. It's Amidu, number 1, versus Attorney General. In the case of Wyoming, Attorney General, I can say, Supreme Court, I can say, and Sana Obi, Amanoni company B, and now my for Sony Ghana, better contract Biano. It's a co parliament. Na parliament, Eji 2 months, and Sunday Juma. In the case of Johnny Debugri versus Attorney General, on also GMP's case, no, so I call, and from a Supreme Court, as I can say, Ghana buying, who for Ghana buying any of my fufro, SI contract Biano. Na Ghana buying per se or trust our contract anymore. As a set of the parliament, na parliament and suma approval and send with me. A 2 better contract now, and so the parliament. Ube Chamuswa, and so the parliament. So, and no. But in this video, could you talk a black say? Oman fan parliament. And Oma Shasia, AJ and Crawford, Ediba Yamaganemu. Putting all of us at risk. Now, Ninchira Muni say, a cabinet decision. Yakasa cabinet decision now. Ministers of state, a cabinet ministers, no, Enyinatuo, Mampenituo, ne vice chairman, vice president to general secretary of NDC, Fifi Kweteni, and Sedin Keteni, Omunina and Transe, na Omujitu Muse. Yanye and Crawford are ye dipo monomera Ghana, Wabria Omon Fanko Parliament. Enkobo parliamentarians na mani Ghana for mani. And I have Levisan say, now so we just say there, Mabu, a minor constitution, so the Supreme Court judgment and our ruling now, a more interpretation of Article 75 and no Mabuso, or said the Omuhe, so because we know a MOU. Then he went further to read to him portions of the ruling of the Supreme Court say, Supreme Court I can say a treaty, say a contract, say MOU. Say a Bibia, say involving Ghana, any another country in the as a co parliament. Who overwhelming majority of parliament, I be Biabako parliament, Biano, who bet me a Jatum, who could you tell Black say, or no dear, Attorney General Dominic Ayeni, a catch the cabinet say, bet me a Jatum because America Attorney General no, I catch and say. When ya dear say parliament into your nosa jatum hook, line, and sinker. Ako catch John Mahama, our cabinet, I say, I'm a John Mahama and Swajatum. I'm a masha see edge, I hope to cut enough for a binwaya bonnet, I'm a America, no many idea, and the omo eba or my gun. Question may be Sammy when I say, and yes, sir, Attorney General way, and an annuiano, Commonwealth for a mobile association. Extra cat and the brand say. Ekwanya wo fasu eyi ma mi toko nu edino on wan famra kwan so enti hwe na fa periperi ye enya adwuma na ma me no yensan reinstate no kwan adwuma na no call back conference ase okodidi lawyer fo no nyina atem Ghana Bar Association fo didi omu nyina atem esa ka kire omu say enya de obi betimi afiri ni man so na obe ka kire ye Ghana fo kwan yen fa so mfa ye mra enya adwuma but okudye to ablakwa I suppose no. I can't say, America Attorney General. And now Fred Dominic Ayeni, Ghana Attorney General no. I can't say, me di nipa bro, jamu o memu. Na we enko parliament. Enti no je, Emma Dominic Ayeni so aje. Eme neme ka say, nipa no 40 di can buy. You see in the coming days, a bit my ne, a bit my ochna, a bit my ochna team. Ipan 40 and so eba. We are told say we are expecting about 250 of them. At the about my Ghana. Omoba. Some would decide some be cool, some bet na who, a ye ya someone. John Mahama 1, Okwaji git mo 2 4. John Mahama 2, Okwaji yesi West African nationals at the aba. Eti, one here, that creates yes ya, no Okwaji a mim for, and ya 2 for, at the aba the guyaso. Na my Ghana, ya diena enkwa at the atu asemu. Se Ora Mahama, any BBA or DCA. Adenti no suro say or the agreement no ebeko parliament because the majority to go through bound him say whatever the agreement entails say or the parliament the minority will scrutinize it and bibi omubiano will come out na abeka che Ghana for say ni womunie and we do have parliament. Now, what makes the whole situation rich? Kwaku man, former health minister, Anna Corona abewiase, Anna Corona no ekunipa, Anna Ghana yesi adrobia yadeku Corona no, ye friend Sputnik V, and Ghana buy say ope Sputnik V nibi na odi aku Corona. And shake bi ewo Dubai ho baby, na ye nyabi ene yesi ekofa no so. Minority for the Kwaku menu echo parliament. Say, Kwaku menu aye ni pabonini na wakwa koto nuro a ne boden esi ne yeto na wiasa mansa dwaso. Ebiem eye external agreement. It na esese odi ko parliament na parliament ema approval. Kwaku menu amfa nko parliament. Ejomo pushi ye ema parliament eti committee. Now, members of that committee na eko probi Sputnik V no na nipa this petition ni koy no na Haruna Idrisu Pamara Minta Kando na okuje to ablakwa number 3. Sabre no na Haruna Idrisu minority leader. Kwaku Pamara Minta Kando ranking member health committee na okuje to ablakwa ranking member foreign affairs committee. Okuje to ablakwa no and mayeti committee se Kwaku menu akoto nuro covid nuro ayade ebesa nipa yare ne abonipa ho ban no wanfo ama parliament anyantum ejomo de koy. Eventually what happened ni say court as parliament committee no recommended say contract re ntwam almost sign recommend biom in fact be yet nyeshu Ghana say yam prosecute Kwaku menu say wakwa sign contract with a certain shake na ama parliament for approval na nunti ama eduro no bo ayedin ese ne ese Ghana for eto today okuja blakwa foreign affairs minister wako akwa hia ne America for e de omonsa akọ secretary ase ama yesisa enkrofo abegu yeso oma anfa deal na anko parliament ye bisa na o say America attorney general aka kire Ghana attorney general say we enko parliament ema attorney general no so ekobojo mahama amane o cabinet ema mu nyina age atum se ampani America attorney general no eka no right esenya Ghana constitution no and the Supreme Court of the land eka in the case of Henry Nanabuache and Margaret Banfo versus attorney general ntene ya sase nipa no de bo man Ghana mu de nipa ba no ba jo ye nim nipa ko mo ba wu asate na yetie yi yenim ba bi ombete ombetena yenim eberedu ombetena krom ha sei se omo betena ha for enfie bi bosumi bi enabi ana omo ba asetena afebo omo bedu o man Ghana mu a omadua ne die omo ase ba bi ombetena ede ombedam ene ho ahwa nyina no Ghana for yenim sankrofo ede omo ba no se omo ye hardened criminals se omo ye terrorists se omo ye hwan enu susu yenim. The only means I betimi dia hu saade ne say aban edi agreement no ebeko parliament senior article 75 any the Supreme Court ruling in the case of Henry Nanabuache Margaret Banfo versus Attorney General Ekano okuyeto abrakwa so ese apetampe Ghana for moye den omonfanko engineer eti hu nie. And can you imagine sanko okuyeto abrakwa ranking member our foreign affairs committee so na Akufo-Addo wa ban mu na Akufo-Addo akwa sensan krata ne wan fa ma parliament na okoji ahoho ne amimfo e de abegu ye so magana mu. Can you imagine what will happen in this country? Adentina minority ranking member no o issue one statement for osade hu no wa ko plan be bia tan wa edin. Adentia I am very sad. And as I said, Ghana for sorry, well-meaning Ghanaians, they kasa etia the conduct of John Dramani Mahama. And you see, and now why because now we Ghana buying embassy in America. Okujo ta blakwa and flimsy excuses. Esu kokotumu. And me create a rift between Ghana and America. And my and America say sanctions ne ba na eba. Enti o pebibia pepa na niwo. Enti okwaji kotobe kumafo e dia begu yeso abedi o man newu. And everybody is quiet. Nobody is talking. How can we build a country like this? Okuja to ablakwa dishonesty ashanema or a politician bia only principles because and so to me being no e catch say yenko top presidential jet for fraud dia say most ebresu na ewo yi a anka ba na asase apai amakuja to ablakwa wo semma nkola dimiti ebobo etigana for sorry no monkasa ansana yakofan krofobi abegu yesumo mai adiyewu bidin di Kwaku Dawuro we aye dwam on movement in the morning. God na sare bedi akon ene da sebre ajeja mena no ma chance e be wura asem mu na fiye den pensen mu abremo
pay much and a minority focus nina so the chairman I mean and come home I mean saying about Victoria don't come our US
nipa ya uchi omu ide ba kubi omu a nyanka wo yifiri mu so
sa
edin ba kubi omu ya duhu bia na o tia na meye asowa no se
minimum to minka
me ya kan se we die
obasesa de don ore
enkoyi
obasesa
o ya na aka me ya kan udi wa na o tia no pe na me ya kan se jai keke go wan hwe ya be ya da kun se ntia no memo jai because of said in be ba so e die na dem na nya mic no me so na wutia
na say na the whole day your program you because the time you have to be another actually
nti ho asem enonom godo machi na bokode
oh nyame adom wade wo ho tiasi wade ade asachi ti bia god
kromu ye bokode
oh kromu ashi kakra se enra so chief justice Mrs. Getutokunu isaba wasad na asem ko court
na unyai keke
dabi unyai dabi nsi ujai
don
dabi sim ene mebo hon ma na important say be ba record so say President Mahama oboni trimo polada Kwaku me wa kofa constitution na President Mahama waboni trimo procedure obeye e na obeye but important say Mahama no be fight course na kositi Kwaku de e course me yem hyehyeme say Chief Justice ya wono ye arm of government it said the executive ye arm of government said the legislature ye arm of government ye miensa na wutimi a time will be a opposition na wo ba ban mu na otan no bias prejudices ni na wo de be ye adwuma e wa ban mu e di tia no yi na digu na nim ase pam no abra emra kwa bia wa amfa so a okuna ehu for me esumaduru yen na se Chief Justice and na president itim do otan eye ne saa na efe ne say bogu early headmaster and ebedede Chief Justice o enye magistrate court judge enye second court judge o na ye ne saa enti no media me support no na se ne se minya kwan kakra sem no de court no me kan kitu e bi hwe warrant omoso mudie yi Chief Justice edi no yesi yi nedi as Chief Justice and masadi aka ho say yesi yi nedi as Justice of the Supreme Court okohono ni asem no na ye mra kwan so na wo so de court so committee na president eti so mun ko hwa asem no what is some ko hwa asem as what as Chief Justice not as Justice of the Supreme Court. Chief Justice is also the role is different from Justice of the Supreme Court. We play dual role. First one administrative role, and the second one is we judge of the Supreme Court. Some person will judge will be the petition, but say you judge a high court and I say Supreme Court and a court of appeal. Oku emra na asese say committee a obeti no e wo say wonya judge for me nsa ene wo mo nya judge for so bienu ase e ka ho na mra ne say some person will you obi e will be the petition ba say yenyi obi adi as Chief Justice e wo say court judge for bienu ene tena so ene edipa mensa o nya judge for question is say asemu ye di ye no judge for law said it so judge for bienu and a lay persons miensa judge for me no it means say ye Chief Justice adwuma and ye and yet the dismissal of a judge of a justice of the Supreme Court or higher court. It has na we like I said the way you need as Chief Justice what say you need as judge obetiba you need as Chief Justice said okay. But what you need as justice of the Supreme Court
nano asem we akoto court onim nti no wo kan wan kan yi a e be ka so why Judicial by asem no say no asem they say
Some in the court into the prejudice. I'm on it.
No, contempt. Yeah, contempt. And yet, contempt. But some of a shas, you know, a lawyer answer, sorry. Ebe can say, or no, or as part of the argument, you know.
Okay.
But many lawyer being so dinkomo. And one also can say, in fact, as a many credit dinkomo with the so.
I don't want to.
Meaning say, I don't for many. One lawyer, either private or seminar dinkomo, na me pay education.
Okay.
And ma, also, actually, me say, won't me you were the as Chief Justice now serve as Supreme Court judge because a designer ya forward you as a newscaster. Now, one riser be news editor. Now, one misconduct to then it won't me and serve as a staff of the company.
Not as a staff of the company.
There be once but to Tobuase. There be Tobuase. See, misconduct. It's a misconduct in the back. Near final guilty of the misconduct, dear. Not as fatal dismissal. What it means, they say, won't mean can say, yen dismiss me as newscaster. Now yen a news editor, yen retain him as newscaster. You, ya for a newscaster with Juma. Now I rise up a news editor. Now why ye Juma? Now why ye misconduct? I a fatal say SSC you were di. Say SSC you were the dear. Then one to me can say ye medi as news editor, ni nyame as newscaster. Now mo say as na can say ye twa so dia, you bet me can say ya demo too from news editor to newscaster. Now mo say a fatal dismissal dia. Then you to mean dismissal as a news editor and then you serve as a newscaster.
Okay, maybe. The work no for me valid. However, there are processes. There are processes say yes you will be as a judge. Process and say judge for me and son. Lay persons me ye be you your petition bar. When I'm going to answer no. Because ye petition bar against a chief justice and rather to say judge for me lay persons me and son according to Article 146. Sanity.
Because now what it means, they say 146 doesn't apply in the case of because of a chief justice in you know, on only the no now 146 no be moot. You know, it doesn't apply.
So the person is petitions now what they call you know. Petitions you know. None in your phone, so many don't know the petition no call.
Or the course you
as chief justice. Good. Answer no the petition no call. Say you will be as chief justice. And you say, the petition, but you will be as Chief Justice. Now you ready as Chief Justice. Not Chief Justice, now you ready.
I will administrative role, sir. I'm administrative.
And maybe see, charges normal, but media now can be expect to say, on challenging the whole process. So, on challenging the removal, no. So, we're challenging the whole process. Because see, once obey Chief Justice, go on. Won't mean court, mean to mean for petition court. I mean, can't you man penny Mahama say, the patcho me per se, we justice, Tokunu, justice backbone in the OCR. It imagine some man penny Mahama or the petition I said, the patcho ye justice, backbone ye disse Supreme Court judge, and we need a disse Chief Justice.
That be the open abbey.
What are two was that be
Kwaku? I want different routes at the fast food.
Send me and now me court. Now me say Justice Baffuboni. I'm misconducting home. In the end, as Supreme Court judge, Tobuase, member. The moment over final justice, Baffuboni, guilty of misconduct, requires yenina as Supreme Court judge, you know, automatically Olusu the position as the Supreme Court.
And if I know on your Supreme Court judge, on to me, how to Chief Justice, and they are different. And this you will be a Supreme Court judge, dear, automatically want to mean Chief Justice. But you will be as Chief Justice, I don't just want to mean Supreme Court judge.
So Hannah trick in the one. Say, offer Article 1464 no. Go on. Say Chief Justice Act 1. And then, won't mean cancel the 1464 no equal Justice Bafuboniedi. You can't do that because the law requires that once I was assuming the position of an acting Chief Justice, no, so you need the so called by
that was 146 now you moved I was saying
me say 1464 no at the superior court judge you know and you're about money I can't throw no you're about money you show your acting chief justice and 2% we in a dia you can't go under the 1464 because of a channel was as the chief justice in it.
Na boni be no ya
boni a was by
boni ya we yin na and ya di fio
chew Kwaku two different routes who person we yin nipa kro na di as a judge 146 a friend say 1466 was okay 1465 was say the committee appointed under of this shall okay 6 was say where the petition is for the removal of the chief justice. The president shall acting in consultation with the Council of State appoint a committee consisting of 2 justices of the Supreme Court. Second one of them shall be appointed chairman by the president, and 3 other persons who are not members of the Council of State, nor members of Parliament, nor lawyers. You know, 6 and a 4 not the Kwaku. Where the Chief Justice decides that there is a prima facie case, he or she shall set up a committee consisting of 3 justices of the Supreme Court.
Jina honoma. Say a person ye Supreme Court judge be a dear. What the petition be command president. President very fair petition to the Chief Justice.
Yes. For
the Chief Justice to determine prima facie. It is a mere Chief Justice. Now the petitioner ba etiamia. I cannot sit on my own petition. The petition Bremen say you made as Supreme Court judge and not as Chief Justice. I cannot sit on my own petition and determine prima facie. So the law says that the moment a person Chief Justice, it must go a step further.
Yes.
It means that it must go to the president, not president in the Council of State, and determine prima facie. Then now prima facie need to determine we are. They are take committee.
Yes.
That committee could determine. Then the recommendation of the committee become binding on the president.
Who becomes the structure?
To become binding on the president. So what it means, they say, there is no other means to sack the Chief Justice as a Supreme Court judge than to go under Article 4, under Article 4, now kind of first 6, under Article 4, 6.
Article 1466.
It's the Chief Justice, aye bonne. Now, person ye di as a Supreme Court judge.
Now, we can't say ye as a Supreme Court judge.
Me can't say much. Say why bonne. That's what person ye di as a Supreme Court judge.
Let us say ye as a Supreme Court judge automatically.
It applies as Chief Justice. Because you can't go under the 4. Or your Chief Justice, you can't go under the 4.
And America say, "Senipa no any Supreme Court judge."
David,
unto me
Matthias, but the rule can say. So Chief Justice before being Chief Justice, no, what is
Supreme Court judge.
But what's Article 1464? That's a woo ye open petition be back against a judge, Chief Justice, and the best say prima facie case were established. We are what a committee. Now, if the case is about the Chief Justice, but the petition is for her removal as a justice of the Supreme Court. What is the route?
A corner now will determine primary first.
A great area of constitution.
That the constitution say you can't do that because he cannot be a judge. He cannot be so what? That is a great area. When you clear, it means that in the constitution, Article if I 146. 1464. Now the 10 naka. So it means that go on. Me Mrane say who person we coca a different program isua. So petition come Dawuro. Na Dawuro nhwem. Ohwem na coca aye nyama ho simbia on te committee. Committee no fa panelists mienu ene abonto for miensa enka ho. No munkodi asem no. Odifo a committee ni ntwombre Dawuro de pa e se Dawuro de ye adwuma. Okay. Then committee me say so person you already as host of the program there and you saw command manager na manager at the committee na offer nipa mi nu ha na odiomo ka ho. Okay, so once Dawuro te ha no why bibi a emma ne ho kwan say otena ha as host no saa de kodie na so emma ne ho kwan say ontena ha as a guest
because You don't know you as a host. But make number 2.
I know you sack. I know yes, and I can say, Michelle, I can say you see, young Chunwason, committee recommend say, young stripping off opposition as the Chief Justice, not by a Supreme Court judge.
But
when the recommendation of the committee, they say, you need the D as Chief Justice, and then as a Supreme Court judge.
There is a petition here. That is the question. Petition is
a committee, a kaya. Then the committee.
That is the recommendation of the committee.
Then they step beyond their boundaries. Committee no. They step beyond their boundaries.
Yes,
because it was a null voice.
Because committee did not
any mandate. That committee, any mandate. Somebody recommended for the dismissal of a judge.
Yes.
Or the termination of the only mandate that they had was the dismissal or whatever of Chief Justice.
And the judge in the other now to be
to be fact judge in count because the judge in the air, 3 judges according to Article 146, 6
and not 2.
For the proper. Minister, we do High Court. Some follow High Court debate. I suspect said the High Court will refer to Supreme Court for proper interpretation, true and proper interpretation of
Article
146.
We bet the petition say for the removal of Chief Justice. Say who say a year by year back could be almost say what transfer would be. One of the accusations against him now
Chief Justice a transfer.
One it was what transfer would be. What transfer would be, administrative rule. And to be fair, I don't know. As we that, me say she even got it wrong. Petition never could pay. Say you no penny, they could tear the background. And the background 80 that petition. And she's adding with it. So, can you remove her as Chief Justice and as a judge? Because it was in her role as a judge.
David Toboa say, okay, constitution now. Obeka say the recommendation of the committee is binding on the president. It is a committee and they say you knew dear. President need to say so if you want to challenge, then the Chief Justice should challenge the whole process in court. And you want to challenge part of the process.
The recommendations of a unit is binding. You know that what say committee be a better piano. There shouldn't be prejudices.
Yes.
There shouldn't be biases. Because
committee was terms of reference.
Now could a committee don't be about down for because it is supposed to be binding on the president.
No.
Almost the back say Chief Justice got police have been previous.
What was their reference?
Because Chief Justice.
And yes,
judge.
And you say you can say any Chief Justice said here. A whole recommendation now they are binding to the president.
Yes.
Because you can say any Chief Justice said now committee no kwatinaso. You see the Chief Justice say I cry no didn't to kwantino. You could now in Yemunu. That president you could just some you could have
recommendation.
Or the recommendation of Benti.
Me say
and the you want to more someone a whole recommendation of some and
former director of the Ghana Law School. Now who did this argument? Until say counter arguments and say and you know, I get say a level.
David, and what say no hold do that position until say has he changed his position?
Well, me personally,
you until
statements have an ear too.
Mankaso no change you. They say he was holding that, you know, until say other counter motions by and a level ground no fear. Well, that one I don't know.
Does he still hold his position or not?
And Sasare is not the final authority. Me bonding because a bad law or your authority. Man can say me. Hold this argument, you know. Media na me ni yadwin. Until say me tie other legal arguments. And na me nya level playing field. And That's what mean can on your authority.
What
authority to become the director of the Ghana
authority?
Oh, that's
no. When you run, just for your authority.
Yeah, council authority.
So your authority, they are started by come from
That's not it.
No, there are so many authorities.
And
they said it's a community.
Authorities.
But the okay, my understanding was that.
Manka said your kind no a final and I said change the position. Me say
you have to listen. My understanding was that one no cast and conform to be can be clear.
Me say Obaka me can say okawi no. Me friend lawyer be for education.
Yes.
And I me say until say me tie other legal opinions no. And I minya level field.
And I will
me. That's what I said. Man can say, also because on your final authority, and by Ghana memoir. But the American say, Nyamuka Ninano, Osha, a womb. But the Supreme Court will have the final say. But near American also no, go down Osha, and also a womb.
But
it's a say, make your madrimuno. Any legal education kakra menya no me feel say necessary maame no challenge the whole process.
Okay.
Unless other than say obeyi ni fa bi no waka say oyeden or challenge e ho because the recommendation of the committee no any say ye nyi na di and you see ayi die no bemu a tio ayi die ni bemu a godon wontimi enni okeke no na unsanya ne back. Because it's a white misconduct. That's a one same factor. So yes, Chief Justice dear. Then the same conduct will not permit you to become the Supreme Court judge.
But you see,
so
our two rules, our administrative rule, and our can I say adjudicatory rule. Say what you judge, and in her, so what yeah. The administrative rule no obeta a mistake.
And when I say
so your mistake, let's say I pass one mistake. Yeah, no, does it affect her adjudicatory role or responsibility?
Okay, so
the
trick in me. Then before the petition, or no other petition, no, you have man a copy of the committee report.
My
Then you refer it. And you say, what say you as Supreme Court Chief Justice, then yes Supreme Court judge here. Ochina no General President Mahama actually. Now as the same petition in the report, you know, Eddie Akobium say because of this recommendation of the committee, you know, he cannot serve as a Chief Justice. And Ojia, then you have to set another committee and also remove her as the Chief as Supreme Court judge. And not in a committee, no, actually in Abomo, no, and I recommend say
because of President Nyayeno, what was the communication from the presidency to the committee? Say that petition has been filed against the Chief Justice.
So you need a Chief Justice.
I don't think we'll use Article 1464 no. Say you go here no. Say na abano. Omo use 4 or they use 6. They use because omo use 4 because omo 2 judges and it is so. Etiano de me I support court no. I'm not going to say beyond court no. Beyond court no. The whole process shall read. Yeah. The whole process. Kwaku mami 296.
Yeah.
Nense ntu constitution de kutami. Article 296. Munti adie bi. You say omu wo discretionary power. Exercise of discretionary power. Article 296. Where in this constitution or in any other law, discretionary power is vested in any person or authority. A. That discretionary power shall be deemed to imply a duty to be fair and candid. Fair and candid. The exercise of the discretionary power shall not be arbitrary, capricious, or biased either by resentment, prejudice, or personal dislike, and shall be in accordance with due process of law. And where the person or authority is not a judge or other judicial officer, there shall be published and a handful of the permit fine Kwaku. First A and B, no. fair and candid. President Mahama, a opposition leader. Asama wa kafa Chief Justice we. Asamba na betima ba President Mahama will be fair and candid.
Never. Because when we can't say no that cry.
Asamba na beba President Mahama will not use arbitrary means. Asamba na beba President Mahama this is any capricious. Asamba na beba President Mahama will not be biased against the woman.
Because when we can't say no that
and they were saying
already president.
Prejudice or personal dislike. Prejudice say what body tribu podada. Now, the whole
haunting and me can say media me position ye mean one me feel say ankama me no onyai because on when the end from the beginning and the first one two say or challenge dia say na wo kan on challenging the whole process na yi na di no because the moment a process no will be determined null and void no it means that the end result no so void
but me to me no ma me no the point ni say me ni trimu die but the point ni say petition ba against me as Chief Justice petition no me just no
obi so dia ba we say the moment you have been removed as CJ you can't serve as a judge you should rather challenge the whole process it will be so dia or no so dia ba it say yes
ma me no we lawyer ni
thank you
we lawyer ni ache abaya judge ache onimra Zuma yanke kan ye kan.
Oh, there be some there Odimra, but 7 paid as a more fight, she is not the law.
Yes.
Odimra. Yes, I said lawyer body as a court, we are a lawyer. Said the castle they be better. What you say?
Because he court means and you know
it's no media
you forward one says see I okay be say unyai court niko. O se kon forget it. Daru, o se kon forget it court no ko meboa. But say see a the nti okọ court no why you be wa ha say see a. Say court no ko okọ enden we di for. But what we are trying to say is that onko na there will be documentations and so that tomorrow when somebody
Eric, one fire into
the break a however.
What you say? The year canon, say there will be documentation of the processes so that to a China so be challenging and also be revisit there is something to talk about. And this Rebecca say, oh, but that process and do baby, the can require by do baby. She truncated the process. So how do we proceed from there?
And I see me saying, and now say President Mahama abodi trimupo pay some of the kind of position. Court will be could be ano but a year instructive and important say obeko court ama would word for nemuno ye be capture near ma ekoso che womo de nema petitions miensa ene koy first one of the buy than no for the of the buying than no for the no na your first petition than no for the no you dated somewhere March the first petition was dated somewhere February case allegations against my men say assemble could be Bako ba first, Bako ba second, and we be the ba second. Interestingly, that no for the ba match no. Then they did first. And I said first one no. Would you say omuka say
ahomanesom na yekodi enkomo no emra.
Omukọ you know. Wo so omuka say agane asem no.
At the request of the Chief Justice and then the petitioners.
And the petitioner almost say date say 15th.
Before
15th me ko fa ho o ma anya adwuma
asa na you need the can say we need ba first
but the process must still continue because we can say won be di asem 15th me ko fa ho o ma anya adwuma
okay marinko abamaso na minkodi enkomo lawyer Eric Dauda a private legal practitioner yene no eni komo kakra counsel good morning
minia
na boko de
nyame de yankwa ache na muso
nyankopon adom yenso ye ho ye papa ja anopai ye de nye lawyer for nti no ya kire adwin bia na ye hu se ye ma me Chief Justice ayi na dinanu ya no afile a process at the High Court na process no e kan ba cho hwe yi ni so na enye yi na process no o challenge se President Mahama ntimi nyinadi as the Supreme Court judge. So we nyinadi as Chief Justice, so ntimi nyinadi as the Supreme Court judge. Ebi so ntimi you were the Supreme Court as Chief Justice there. You cannot continue to serve as a Supreme Court judge for education purposes without going into the areas of if anything contempt, no. Boy kakra. Say issue we exercising.
Minia, because you should work what means in the other panel. You will not veer into arena of contempt. Okay, Chief Justice in class and all the alcohol, and in class and on the committee now must stay up to investigate allegations against him. That committee was purposely for the investigation of the Chief Justice of the Republic of Ghana. Now, before some of the Chief Justice, you must be a Supreme Court judge. Understand? What's my Chief Justice? So that's why in Ghana, I didn't see that. Say, you will be split from the bar. Now, I Court judge. Normally, no, people progress from the lower to the upper. Now, according to check, the Mammy Justice Dawuro or say a magistrate court judge and all Koya or the court. Okay, my message for your Kufu or the Kosa judge, who share a justice upper or the Kosa, who share a more Chief Justice for Ghana, or move almost passive on the bench. And to this argument that I am making is once you are a Supreme Court judge and then you are appointed as what do you call it, a Chief Justice, you only perform an administrative role as a Chief Justice of the Republic of Ghana. If you share allegations now, most of them border on a performance or her performing a function as an administrative head of the judiciary. What you say? Like them or perform administrative functions. And administrative functions, no, if you were a member of the Supreme Court, not only a justice of the Supreme Court, and you don't have that function, which is clearly delineated by law. If you are a judge, for instance, or a Supreme Court judge, you don't perform the said administrative function that Chief Justice is performing. If according to Chief Justice, allegations now more they must say me kunu and then me ma to find Yamai ticket no and you don't sanction yet. The standing officer of the Judicial Service and what do you call it? SND, because of that, because I am the head of the judiciary. If you have an oversight responsibility, this oversight responsibility modifies into an administrative, what do you call it, function, into Mujinia. You are removing me as the Chief Justice of the Republic of Ghana. Even though I am a Chief Justice, but I am a Justice of the Supreme Court of the Republic of Ghana. If you need the NSA, warrant of what we call it, a removal, talk about remover as a Chief Justice, a remover to your court. As for say, on say, allegations now a border on the functions as an administrator of the judiciary, will automatically lead to a remover as a Justice of the Supreme Court into non-theatre. Into now, what is Sankate? I will not veer into the merit. Now, the matter is sub judice. Into we have a panic on the Hokakana, it's not check them out. Me sure say, and shall see I'm the way, a bit me up to a chief for Sumna, Monso, Chief Justice, no, not somebody calling Pompons or no Philippi.
Okay. Council made us say a ground a year was set, but the other argument and so and they say obi pese oyi Chief Justice no edi as a Supreme Court judge. Ontimi nko under Article 1464 because of a child sheno as Chief Justice. Inti eso ko under Article 1466 no. So how do you differ? Because before say bia obi odiafa enokranto ayera abaf money ewo hoi. Say me as a Ghanaian, the person ye nedi as a Supreme Court judge. Me emrano ma me ho kwan say metimi akọ under Article 1464 no because of the position Ohodi additionally as a Chief Justice, no. And no, what's something saying?
Yeah, the whole country. Who's a man who do such so much in that regard. But the Constitution of the Republic of Ghana provides for the removal of a justice of the Superior Court of Judicial. What you say? The kind of justice of the Superior Court of Judicial is just from the High Court, Court of Appeal, and the Supreme Court. The endless, you are justice for backbone. How are you acting Chief Justice? Before so be acting Chief Justice, now or you justice of the Supreme Court of the Republic of Ghana. It is here now what be acting Chief Justice hiding. After no. He exercises an I say or administrative function. If in his capacity as a Supreme Court judge, okoye enyima bi for constitution actually kwanya and as a nema obi a yina bi and I say let me go to the impeachment. It is a allegation now they boni panel and actually say one either say or justice of the Supreme Court no okoye nema a nema bi a constitute what we call a system behavior. What you say? I mean, different. But system behavior and constitutional there has never been any definition in respect of system behavior. What you say? As they say, or yet acting Chief Justice. If I'm saying the procurement bit a bonner, the one for it, procurement be a mimic to the Republic of Ghana. You are removing him as a Chief Justice because of that function that he has performed, which is an administrative function. The Kwaku as a Superior Court judge, and also so ABA no akwa and Yama India, yes, okay, I constitute certain behavior. Now, because the premise of the Constitution never explains what we call certain behavior, you a bit a constitute certain behavior. It's once and for all. I'll see the court, the Supreme Court, Emma Omutimi provided the clear definition of systemic behavior, what constitutes systemic behavior. And so then, that we were by in Kokona, I've been on more church and I mentioned my or more very intelligent. As the say, you see, now the Chief Justice, Supreme Court, of course, Supreme Court, not Supreme Court, once the criteria for the appointment of a justice of a Superior Court of Judicature, it is the same in respect of the appointment of a Chief Justice, because in himself, Ghana Bar Association as Attorney General, Samana Justice Aban, President Ronald Samuel Baby Corps, appointed to what you call Supreme Court, or the what you call the Chief Justice of the Republic of Ghana. You see, name maybe for an or on self in the time. The core appointment committee, no, it didn't so Supreme Court or whatever cast say morally, no, or you're unfit to be in the to actually be appointed as a Chief Justice of the Republic of Ghana. Supreme Court cast said the criteria now they appoint people say we are Supreme Court judge. It is the same criteria that they appointed what they call it a Chief Justice. You see, say yeah, Abia is still who can say or yet the justice of the what do you call it of the Supreme Court. The same thing is who can from becoming a Chief Justice of the Republic of Ghana. You see, you will be yet clear. You see now before you can say once you cannot remove the person and go under 144 when the person is a Supreme Court
a Chief Justice
of the Republic of Ghana. Now the Supreme Court will have an opportunity if anyone presents a case to the Supreme Court to make a determination in that regard. In the Siano, if that's a shaft, the need the Kwaku do. Maybe a High Court, not High Court, and really no, not maybe a that. He may want to pursue the matter further. He may also want to go up the Supreme Court. And man, you going from the High Court of Appeal to the Supreme Court enriches our jurisprudence as a country. In the Siana, what every court where the High Court, yes, we should exercise our what do you call it? our rights.
Okay, but council, some of us also hold the view say, and that is something challenge, even though you legal minds no, say something challenging the whole process instead of challenging portions of the process, because if the process no, say na Udi can say process no was challenging her as the Chief Justice and not as a Supreme Court judge there. Process no fruit. Bear no so no consequences on the whole process. So I didn't think there's a process near 40 there. You're challenging the whole process. Now you're challenging portions of it. What do you make of that?
Good. Now, when the Chief Justice is seeking to set aside the warrant of a removal by the president. What's that? Already another strategy.
Mm-hmm.
The second strategy also can be an action that will seek to challenge what we call it the findings of the committee. What's that? The Okowe here now unya favorable ruling now. What it means is that the court will set aside the warrant of a removal, which was under the hand of the president. That is what the Chief Justice is seeking to do. As Oyewe now also has another leg, also challenging the committee's work, the findings of the committee. Obet me challenge it, or challenges who are and money in who kind. Lawyer, be our court case man, you have to deduce a strategy. If you lump the two actions together, then you know you could share I think my issue. Into one who can crash now they are caught. One sounds so severe. No one have one on the other part now they caught. What I say, it will be dangerous for the Chief Justice to lump the two together. Now, he has pursued a path that he's seeking to nullify or set aside the warrant for the removal of the Chief Justice. And on yet, Madam Araba is about to talk. If she succeeds, she will now get the opportunity to challenge the report itself, because the report is going to be wrong. Report, even though say a mob on Tunibia has put in a lawyer for any near my course, so some committee is here, anytime I'm making submissions in that. If you want from the uncle, if you want to try to move for extension of time, yeah, more extension of time, never money now. It may be the Chief Justice feels and the legal team, they know better. They feel said, let's pursue this angle for now, and then when we are able to get quote and unquote a favorable decision from the court, then we pursue the other angle. And that is what I say after going the other way. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
For education purposes, and you can know it borders on interpretation of Article 1464, 1466. Why the High Court and not the Supreme Court?
Oh no, the Chief Justice is not seeking an interpretation in respect of the constitutional provision.
Eventually, no, the High Court may have to interpret some articles, no.
No, yeah, the High Court has no jurisdiction to interpret. What it means
no,
is that
I'm part of
Mr.
Where you know, I mean, the High Court need so if a is not here interpretation, then it means the High Court may have to refer to the Supreme Court for interpretation. I'm pessimistic.
Good. The Chief Justice is attacking the procedure. What I say, the Chief Justice is seeking. Hello. Yes, the Chief Justice is seeking to attack the procedure. What I say, procedure now present with so and the issue warrant for her removal. That is what she challenged. After challenging, in the likely event, we have favorable ruling. She can now have another leg on the aspect of the matter. A better challenge the entirety of the findings of the committee. What I say?
Yeah.
Yes. And see, all those things mean now the High Court has jurisdiction in set determination.
Okay.
Article 140 of the 1992 Constitution of the Republic of Ghana provides the jurisdiction, exclusive original jurisdiction of the High Court in respect of some of these matters.
Right. All right. Me that say council ne nchichimu what the amayin. So we know could be a legal strategy. A Chief Justice in the person who use now or they approaching the case, no, right?
Yes.
Okay. Me that say where the major kwan wa ko but who know there's another issue on the Bena has to do with your president sign agreement. Now also urging for about 250 into our country without parliamentary approval. Said they are the case of Henry Nanabuache, Margaret Banfo, as the Attorney General. What do you make of that?
NBC as a party, no, or with the Wadaruma. I mean, Article 75 of the Constitution of the Republic of Ghana makes Ghana a dualist state. A dualist state with an explanation that once you enter into any agreement, whether a treaty or anything in respect of a bilateral agreement between the Republic of Ghana and any other country, what it means is that you are seeking to incorporate that agreement within our municipal law. And the Constitution of the Republic of Ghana makes it so clear that such agreement needs ratification of Parliament. Simplicity. In Dawuro, Margaret Banfo and Helena Boache, Attorney General, it was in respect of the Gitmo Tea. At the time, Ghana forecast the Attorney General, and at the NDC, they argued that agreement was not supposed to go to Parliament for ratification. Helena Boache and then the lawyers disagreed. Today's Attorney General, Dr. Dominic Akutinga, and was the Deputy Attorney General at the time. So he was the one who went to court and argued that such an agreement requires no parliamentary ratification. By a 4-1 majority, it was only Atuguba who dissented.
6-1 rather.
Yes, 6-1 majority. The Supreme Court held that such an agreement requires parliamentary ratification, irrespective of the name you give to such agreement, whether it's a memorandum of understanding, whether it's an agreement. They don't see the need in submitting what we call it a mere MOU Parliament ratification, and they are waiting for the MOU to what do you call it, transmogrify into an agreement before they go to Parliament. It is wrong whether MOU or agreement or any other thing. Once it is a bilateral agreement and it is between the Republic of Ghana and any other country, it must go through the records of the Constitution of the Republic of Ghana. Failure to do that is unconstitutional. Simplicity.
Okay, that's an pay at Medasi. Bibia Besan Swabim. Why? I was also Eric Dowda, a private legal practitioner, and an pay in the D and come on. Aha, a movement in the morning on Movement TV, a live on Facebook, a live on YouTube, Movement TV. Now, Abria and Nigeria for person more establishing Igbo kingdom in Ghana. No, yes, Ghana and the was Scotland, say, and also establishing African. Yeah.
Lawyer Adolfo,
yeah, Kwame Adolfo.
Kwame Adolfo. Now we are doing my channel, we'll be your time.
Okay.
Channel, our friend.
Now my friend,
on the
scene.
Public education.
Yeah, it's true.
Great areas go baby, seeing nice.
But you see, Sanya Wakano, menino a dream because say a strategy. Until be I am highest. No, you see, meeting us but. Sena Mekano, but
I just see
it
was my academic
or say or Richard the jurisprudence of Ghana.
Yes,
and it's good, say, A.B. Obesa has been the former Chief Justice, and T.B. who he has Obesa, so that any money be a bedana quemu. All right, so Abuja, there no a better home. Now, yet me a call your name, but and Rami who has seen be now. Abraham to be a safe friend of Solomon Owusu, and any son of movement for change. There's also the petitioner, Dr. Bawumia, say, on my part in the 300 pickups. In your metro baby, yes, Kafia, or the my part in the 300 pickups. One so a Kumemwa. Obeki can see Nanko Faka say, would diatem already so. Now, Honorable Canada Japan. And yet, no, so many years in me. And no society so can more, my part. But Or by example, so every candidate. In fact, Mahama 20 ahead of the NDC 2020 2023 primaries no. Onu kwa 15 million Ghana cedis. Edema NDC for the primaries. In fact, I don't want from NDC for. Apart from the ma NDC for no, only 15 million. Emma delegates for direct money 15 million.
And you know, contest. And so 15 million. And as soon as the ma pack and you organize the election. No. In fact, now we are no. Here are Mahama before election. I'm sure the pickups they 100 will say 200. As you come NDC party no. And we actually know small scale miners. Edit about 1,000 pickups. And so the command NDC for 1,200 mewa. And the command NDC for so omunfanya juma and all that. Or say who problem with any of them? I just said Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. I ran for now wajino. Why did I run for? Go on. Now a bayan say worry nam na ka osim. Now the toothpick age na toothpick work osim. I don't know who
sa petition or their queen. Nyansa bi anim. O metre yen kwan a alanchematen e fa so e funding the campaign or
the whole country
or train who free MP.
Or started free 2007.
And 2007. Alanka or the year Alankas no. O metre baby a onya sa sika no free.
Ba ko ni nyina mesremo. Yen ka de foforo. Abefa nto no say also the lifespan short.
Until them so wu
and ewu
until ope bibi dia ba.
Until wope I think we afafa believe in reincarnation.
Metamorphosis.
Metamorphosis too. O metamorphosis ya ba bia ama na woko and no person or you reincarnated until no through this my man of kwan Kwaku.
I don't think the special prosecutor be free as we say. We move not special prosecutor go media
office. Ofanko Hague and case a war crime against humanity. Kwaku at the point.
No be who are there no. Na esema bufo.
What can say?
Me just say procredit for the assembly of many budget.
Are you?
Ah, to me, Edma, me, Pam, where we are getting. I am a Tessica found and be Chiremuni Sano Menina. And Pamo, and we are getting. Am I a coffee or constitution? No, ma, a Juma no me wolfie, and net, ooh, baby, castle be me. And now you only to what to buy. Hey. Yes, I'm not investigating. I'm about me also go on. Trade minister. I told her, Bia, this is a year. No, I'm not more the young people. I'm not even of one party. Who come the office? I know a bit now. No, sometimes we should allow Debbie. Leave us and let's talk together.
Yeah, can't
so or a party.
Debbie, one can say Alan is man with the young can ho. So the one can say Alan Asman to
one flag bearer of that party. One leader, movement, one leader. Oh, ye, almost change. Movement, some movement, very reversing for change. We reverse that movement for change.
My advice, my advice is take advice.
But then, Dawuro.
Therefore,
in the text. Therefore,
no, nobody do. Leader, 40 and what? And that's why I told you issue disclaimers. I deal with minimum.
So I can't my movement. No, on one
move out to fund a deputy. What about go on.
Na movement I
see it to train.
Young to
baby as see can somebody be saying so adia all ye no. So also good about me
so also about them. So also about them. Mama young to son so about them. About them na come down. Na about them mama young to son.
Yeah, about for so go o je omo anyi o.
Come down, come down. No be can you say. Jama ka abon no ke kan de opebia ni dan.
Solomon Usu.
About them nya no.
Na TV so e kan say. Ura lanche matin. MPP for co primaries no. Asofo bi hu no. E kan say Ura matin ente ne ho. O say Ura matin betimi edi president agi so ten ho ko independent. Asofo no sa crash and come catch any so. Only su yellow as the colors in the yina. Betimi we ni election.
We di pawi.
Na oti ase original co independent no. E na for who say the same asofo no Essential Commission Muhammad be winning. Not say us off on almost here. And but when you are there to say, time. We just want to put it on record. Say, you can't say Goro will be a resourceful. Not ultimately the party.
And just always cash and bottom.
And just always cash and bottom. Our no session bottom at the party. No, and then I'm a site example say. Small scale miners say, I'm going to pick up 1,200. 1,200.
Every command
this before. And in fact, Sabreno, say, John Mahama, say, Operation Africa, Nanas will be unconscious, say, a small scale for the Toya. Contractors are going to pick up men this year to be. The only answer, say, Operation Trimudia. And the petition you ever lunch and stay home. Madam Asim. I was movement in the morning, Jimmy DSC, Roche Abo Apasima, Ediasa and 9, and check Nami Jamaquine, and the school placement and also Abba and Ahomachin.
But in the year before they were done with school placement, remember some back of pen and maybe 3 feet, but I'm person better. MPP was allergic to road construction voter regional minister. Sir James Gunu se hwano. Papa nam say onye normal human being. James Gunu as voter regional minister. Papa nam say e said no ko ankafo ko hwe na adwenim.
Enyo na no me ba okoda ho.
Na menim die. Na adwenim nye. Say, oh menim me hwe ni mabi yo. Voter region e yaka ho. E bi ye ingress e wo sa region. Me kai say president before time your yama voter region nyinaachi Professor Mese eba abamu ape na togba afede koka say ya yom say second class citizen ya yom say nyanka ya yom afiri say omo de mon kan Ghana fo ho enti black fo betina asumfie nwotwene de voter region de say ya yom hwe eno akoda nga kufado ba ya dia na onya voter region da bia wonka adakulu asem
adakulu voter region
na enna James Gunu se hwan abegina ho say MPP allergic to road construction in voter region. Na voter region mo tira ho from Rollins to Kwaku Nkrumah no ma hu asphalt da. Voter region no ma hu asphalt da. Anya kofo na di asphalt ba voter region kan. Na ma sa be ka we tese be dum lebi no MPP fo nso no oba power. The voter region fo ye no. Mo fa nsu nyansa. Na mo so mo develop ba bia mo nya mo vote.
Na no me kan se mi
because akokọ sa chia anya kroma fe.
Na no me kan se mi kire mo ma me mo aye kama e wo inside ho. Nti e me won say wo na wo keka sa ensimi.
Na no kokọ anyi do ho wan ko je ba bia ntwitwa video afamre.
Nti no
anya akufa na koye ho.
Nti na no ne amoka kire me no eno
Faith November 2023. 432 kilometers of roads constructed in voter region, unprecedented. 432 kilometers of roads constructed in voter region, unprecedented. And that Akufo-Addo. Now, President of the Republic, Nana Akufo-Addo, has disclosed that his government, since assuming office in January 2017, has constructed 432 kilometers of roads in the voter region alone. A feat he describes as unprecedented. Okay. The roads include the completion of the dualization of the 22-kilometer whole main road, 30-kilometer Avetupandu road, upgrading of the Golokwati Wili road, resealing of the 15-kilometer Sikuma Jansi to whole road, regraveling of the 30-kilometer Frankedia to Adidomi road, and the surfacing of the 17.8-kilometer Mache Clave Lume Achame Avotepke route. Kwaku. Kwaku. Every na mabubo yo. It is a regional minister. Ya oba be 5 months in you know. Let's say we na what is a wound ya. Nyame wo ho.
No, bia na anum bibi because you know,
when you read no afa ontimi nkeka.
You can say
na wouldn't read.
You know, Eastern Corridor Road ni say. Your mama buy went me anye. If I bamijolo pita kweji kwan say.
Hey, what's my idea?
Amo de share budget musa.
What and can be enchano.
You know, Mr. Ramo, we no go on. search that kroma
Enye
ne fe enti no papa no I say endra yara Kwaku akotena yenia pani o mahene nim na opese oklemia Ghana card so mo ana ye we dey obi anim say ba omi na Ghana card ye den e buy asa I reckon pacho before some beko no esi edin ketia say thank you to us Western region amohwe esi edin ketia convoy de kokrobo man pacho esi edin ketia convoy a o de call Volta region
Eastern region
where krobo enclave be oh ebi onam no eyi na nam railway pakada railway line na nam so no ti esi edin ketia convoy a ikura no no de kofa esoja man ni potem ni yilu krobo ni menya krobo
flag bearer in way
also ko thank you to
o dey ha thank you
na ko eme ti say o ka so say nkrofo obo na ba so say national chairman nudi a wadi die bi ma da
enti ho thank you no
enti say some ye bo na ba so sa de no so da ba so body no ebrel ayi graphic
as a president or contest election no one ko thank you to
dabi o say anje be hwe no say your kind there enti say John Mahama
and mu wi a reject chairman bi aso ko thank you wow
dabi set you ade no esi anadugro esisi ebe mu a obi a tradition tuma isi ajulo zebra
ono afa
o de opa wo ne wo yire munkasa mu ye kefe to mu dem
why fit
na yiri di dachi na de ma be me kasa weekend yi ebi ba ko ko
from ba ko sa ko so Madina
ono so an Kwaku
oh jira mu de
and blaster mo man role fitness
coach
that mo coach but
face o kan say akumi mo trainer na ye den e bi e mo
bi
trainer Fishu. I'm not no man. Physiotherapist. Na yire enye the deputy. I say the ketia.
We can hear deputy. We can say na Chelsea for more. Doctor B. No your bar. We can no. And now omo pamo oba no. Kati mi yegu.
Na ka. O ma sa jo ma ka se nyo mo de.
Ya so kitwa.
Etunim. We no. I say the ketia wodi so Julius.
About so we are Julius as chief of staff.
Thank you to
they do thank you to all state institutions in Ghana to make sure say president directive no move
so and Korea
they want to take no
party grassroots
yes as chief of staff yes
akutie ni party for the
bind the aduma
I don't get want to mean to
listening to
e bad do
Matesi
kojo do asare so lo sinya be ko.
Also be ko.
Fine, kojo do asare.
Also be ko. Na yi. Ayi
onyani nseburu no ka se
amakofi bua.
Ayi ba ko erikopoku.
Ai, so the lord na de ne ba.
Ato force so be ba wo.
Ato force de. Adenta ai. Amakofi bua de. Amakofi bua de no mo say ye no nti na president say that ne call. Gala be say horrible na edoguna ma. Say be obetuma bi awie no. And the manyani tell say prof so and go for be pushing the prof contest now omo no target running mate
okay
mirror of life the mirror of life of prof man no men running mate
yes eventually no for vanishing
I'm very vanishing what you say
I see
na prof no cry so omo kakrom fi omo
hey Papa there do
yo madam asibe ayi Eric Pacho enye
and adofo dance birthday
no free so Eric Pacho fa adofo dance de ne bra na na don pray and pay good morning to you adofo dance ne na oda ya adofo dance Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia oye ne staff back oye the official
videographer
na ifinigire nana efia otrebia adofo otrebia de so be fie craft mo be pe ntino osi enwe shini kru adofo danso happy birthday
mo don speech abeka ho ana
adofo danso happy birthday and confirm no
adofo ye dipa
adofo danso to say ye wish Samuel Obey o New York o United States say wo no Millicent or Dame and chain and see and wish information ti ora Samuel Obey wo New York happy birthday and confirm fee
na mu na ni
Millicent Dame and chain all right
for you baby o
monya ni enkwe that's where you dey na ayi me so Eric so e dey back say en wish no e say friend Esther e wo nungwa na wada na
na wadana
Adana say. It's Esther. Anope so nungwa a happy birthday and confirm. Nyankopon o sira papa pana akoma so di nyina so emremo.
Okay. Enzarek Yvonne Nana Safoa Nana Safoa our Germany. Na ene your birthday. Nti Yvonne Patricia Love yemfa yewe so na yema happy birthday. We so Boadi Grace. Sorry, facha me. And na your birthday na kontonti this year. Abna saponde by na enu na family so. Nti we dey ne yema belated happy birthday. Nti Boadi Grace our abripo massive. Belated happy birthday.
Okay. Nana don't press ne ba birthday, but unfortunately no one find the banding and council picture and so abalite. Nti no ibeja ne sa se me ye wi na se kwan wo dia na ma hwe aye amano kapo mache.
Ya jadaro.
Bia boko de.
Me adomode na ache ho ye na nso e.
Nyankopon adom ye so ye ho ye pa. Anope mi di mafu heba. Edi na mo man.
But say the Roma men fan chia and free Dr. Time that so home from our hefo anyway T4 and no pay. Maybe I will say our memo among a new crowd was so no. Amy Dima for Heba Hospital, Dr. Time that so and I know AD and Comono na yani yeno. A baby draw any idea Juma until Arabia Titi will be a winnie pediano. Amy Dima for Heba Hospital and I was on the bar. Ibetua see at the Amayan so yare, and I am so yare so a medima for a bar hospital. What the Yariana bar in Shrankan Yami or boss or no boss, I said not a born her buying in Nubina, and Nuhini said Dr. Town that some fans say Aria say, Yaminti, who ever told. Now, yet the other day, say, at that strong son say, Yen fitip recope a medru. A son says, so by a show nipedianum, Yahu baby or how no a free bar. Fear to do an answer, not to do a eddy when you pediarum. A fair crampon, Yariana bar, Yaria would obey now, Quackshi, and the Ababecan who when you pedianum. Nina, I can hold any who say, Dr. Bashan of your more draw, and until a doctor time that so a more draw. When himself was some now watch me and son and I watch no, and one in a free pedianum, and unti and I'm Dima for our hospital no. Yana and Pempin a man for boy a basso say, eh. Man, Shiamwa and Kamawu, Medima Fraba Hospital, ASM and Shia. Esan says, and come and share Dr. Tam that saw, Amanam Faber and found to one of my area so, and Kaminoka say no, Ebia and Kawan Naso and Tiase. Are in Shrankan Yamasa, and Dr. Tam that swaba, nowadays have buying in Lubna and off in Yahini, a year in Rahodwo. Sanon Somaya say, I can't be drawing, and I be draw by it. I be draw a war every year, and no pain so, and I be draw a war. But Medima Fraba Hospital, Dr. Tam that's no, when I'm out there for coin so scientifically and I feel holistically, and our name so at the air sign and Wahodo, and unti say more dra, you throw a draw no son of Obesia you so. Obama Medima Fraba Hospital, Yadro, your swordro, your powder foam, your capsules, your ointment, your neuronal sort or sort, Medima Fraba Hospital. Na ya na mpempi no obi kasa o me mpa bibiduro ne eche no se ma me ni aba o kasa o mpa bibiduro wa hwe yi a o de saa se obi bo ro nyom no so de akeka saa na afia so hwe a o de saa na wa ma saa ayew esan se o de mpa bibiduro mpa we afi ayew but me ma fo ba hospital na ye ntu yare na se fa ba obi wo ho se me yare ni de so de esi kro na asa aye spiritual ne eche no se yare na aye spiritual sa de ya Ato onya to na mo si medima fra ba hospital pe Nyankopon nsa wa maso ne na basa kasiere na mso ebema ho ato ojere fa ho de be ya odea na o ba medima fo a uhia bibia ne uhia ne se wo be ba ne aye card de ama wo card aye de ama wo medima fra ba hospital 70 Ghana cedi ni a check your vitals no akwa ho doctor ne obedi nkomo no prescribe no ma ho do de ama bia wo ba kwa scan na wo ba kwa lab afi lab results and as scan results ne ba na for wa so actual say when na ekoso ni pediaram anu ntino me the time say na treat you e bia wo be baka 800 Ghana cedis maame wo be baka 1000 Ghana cedis maame wo be baka 1005 me de boso me miensa boso me mienu na ehwa na doctor kasa asam no kire wi a afi maame a wo ba ye ne tie no say ka ahobo a wo ye ya wo de ba ye no say 400 Ghana cedis 300 Ghana cedis na wo de ba ye a Acho, actually doctor said doctor, the buy is kita me eni. Na me pese me je yare hwen so me dem afọ ba hospital. Person no say, doctor ba ji sika no amu aduro. Aduro te be ma ono na otwe me no kwa koyusu aduro no. Na insurance kan yame say aduro doctor de ma ono. Insurance kan yame say na otwe me no kra nso be hu nsakire oni pe no. Na me ate no say, haban ne abibiduro no. Se wo ye abibiduro a, obi oso wo ye haban duro no. Awoso wo yi obi a ote haban kasa na ahaban so te ne kasa. Kasa asemu ya in simple terms no. Awoso wo hunu haban bi a, ene adwuma aye na haban bi anso no, ane abreko na woso ote haban no. Haban bi anso ne woso wo ya ansa na wo de haban ne de ye aduro. Ene ntime kasa, woso ote haban kasa sa ne sitie. Onkote haban keke. Se wasore anopa awia dumienu 12 na awia donko 1 pm. No akwate ahaban se wo de kwakoye aduru mpacho nya sa na tie. Bra me di mafo ba hospital. Betima chiro ahaban mo akwakwate se ahaban we ye say ni. Arokwa time our bed debate ahaban no e fact. No ka ho bi. Afa krampo so no. Otie ahaban wie so anioma wodo ade beka ho no. Eno so ye fact. Afa krampo so no. E ka ho bi ene se ebra wo de tie ahaban no. Na wo hwe ahaban no sa ahaban no we etimi sayare ana obey den wo say ahaban we no na me body kire o ba ebetima sayare ana e wo so wo yi obi a utumi hunu sa ahaban we de tie na yare anim de tie na betimi asayare edi mfie se edi bosomi se ne timi sanyare wa hodo ne nyina no untimi anya bere mfa nhwe eno ntini ase fasika keto abi baje o yare sa wo medima afra ba hospital doctor na nkasa be kokwa ye bo be kokwa tete ahaban no eni nubna wodo ne nnue hine no be kokwa tutu aba afi wo de aba be saw yare e o medima afra ba hospital nyame aduma me no kasai doctor o kire nyame aduma premium service e maso e opoko ase mayra o kire e Friday premium service no e maso na e Thursday na e awada na premium service no say ntie e maso no say doctor me no kasai no na cho say doctor e okuma ase ntie o kire nyame aduma doctor e makra ha I don't think next week na premium service e be koso ara obi biara wo so ba yare sabia yare ya tete woro mpacho enne obetima ba poko ase mayra na ba be share doctors na o matumi ahwew mo kuma so betima akokuma ase ebu akwa atwuma ago school junction yete no say doctor betina se na wa ye adwuma nso e okuma ase nyame aduma esansam doctor frahim fie na ye chenchenche ekoso e okuma ase ahema ada fomunti nyame aduma doctor be okuma ase na fekra mo ne kwasi ada so 21st September no ade ba ko say doctor birthday sa birthday no na doctor say nyame aduma mo ben asante manta mo ben kumasi nyina mo betima ba kumasi nyina no enipa first 100 Monday 22nd mo baba medima for ba hospital na mo kuta medima for ba hospital card mo ba be gya yare hwe no mo wa akyede ye pa wo ukuta medima for ba hospital card na wa ba medima for ba be gya yare hwe no mo wa akyede enipa ma akoma ko 100 mo ba yare sabia ho no emu 30 eje Samsung phone a Galaxy na oje afi mu maako 70 eje television 32 inch na moje 100 people no etwa mu wie a mu amaka nyina no obi a wa akyade ebi beje mom ebi beje anwa ebi beje nuoma dodo na doctor beche okuma se nyame ya ntoma ejuwa da edi anim Monday edi anim yi asem na make 22nd kuma se fo na on the 2nd of October eno eye Accra poko ase mayira mo nso macha de birthday no so mo bedi mo de eno ntino on the 2nd October no eye Accra poko ase mayira mo amoba mayira nyina no first 100 people mo bedi kan e o medima fa ba hospital poko ase mayira on the 2nd of October 2025 no 100 mo 70 edge television 32 inch afa mo 30 edge mobile phones e o medima fa ba hospital after first 100 national mo amaka nyina ma chade ahodo ebekoso e de amawo a obegigigi no ma ahodo bebre na o medima fra ba hospital yetense obi beka se na ye ba se ba bagi ayare hwe e de ntini achade no ero na ebe se ayare ya na eniye pa bra doctor e chawade no ba medima fra ba hospital wanya ayare sa ba medima fra ba hospital uguso agi ayare hwe ade eye ni je eye ni kan se wa ba na doctor achawade say we television ebi awde wo fie asai na awde na ya dada na akwa yisu ebi mobile phone kra awde frɛ so person obegi adire no kra no e o ka say e hwehwehwi entimi peke course no yie na wa ma obi safako na fakọ ye course no na ade ba akon so a me kan de aka ho ne se bia doctor nya set time da so anya ma na boro so eno nti ene wo hu no de ode ye ade te no se trasa no se omamu wo nhira ase na ogie ebra doctor ma no na onyame nso nam so na ohira ono nso wo se enya na duduo mu amanya amana boro so no mu ena wo se mama na emomo no ewo bra ama unya ma ne moro so na wo firi wo pem ama no eno na onyame ehira wo eno nti doctor cha de a na na fireby enyina enso eno no nya so anya amana boro so na emomo no ewo so otimi nso ema obi ene agie na ka eda birthday no so no baako tieni ye pa ka ne ye baako ade nipa ne nsa ka no ye nipa wa ba medima fra ba hospital na wa no muniro no bottles no de 10 ba ne ama coupon baako wo de 20 ba coupon mi no de 100 ba coupons no ubenya ade nto de bottles 300 ba unya coupons 30 na me aduma on the 21st September yi no kwasiada no na ni nyina baba na wie nti eduru kwasiada wow bottles no do so no na nsa wo a coupons no do so no wona ka ne ya odia we yan anya fe ne yakokoye na we nya na wodabi wow coupons no do so na ka ne ya odia na ye de ama na afi asumdie atumi aba medimafo aba hospital Dr. Sanda Soda no obi o si he ne atete fabra medimafo aba hospital afi krampo so bia o so kidna say na me kasa no numbers aba frame medimafo aba hospital na oni edi nkomo bia wo hwe me wa abrochira mo na ne ba bia die numbers no afre 0244 77 4282 0244 77 4282 and 0500 727215 0500 727215 afi number account we 0245 449592 0245 449592 these are numbers oba frame dimafo about hospital ni ajo so ni anwa di nkomo but na send a WhatsApp message ahodo be ma mpacha obe masam form ana se obi o se wanya fatty liver na harawa ni yebade asai bia hono fabra medimafo about hospital wanya kidney problems ahodo fabra medimafo about hospital bi duro ni yade hwa no yeto ase de ama wo afei virus infections ahodo fabra medimafo about hospital say bacteria infection fungal infection na atete wo a oba medimafo about hospital no kwasam no say we doctor mfata mo mfanto so entatia case o doctor enim obi o se me na ase atata obi de ne nansi form of pepaja na ensuo e wo ne nansi medimafo about hospital e ba wo boyare ahodo akese so kire wa hwe yi awtewa na wakoma e bo perpe wa hwe yi a pressure kranti no wa to na nanom awansie do but insurance nya me se so oba medimafo about hospital o ha no se de sitie bia ateti a wo na mo yare ahodo a etu so watese no onyame nam Dr. Tanda so ede yare anu oduro no ede beba ho na afi ho atumi ato drivers ni titiri matena se ache afi ho sori ho ntimi ntino mu wachi a obetene ya duro bra mtima fo ba hospital ya hwe osisi no de na ekoso osisi no ha be na ho komu bra na afi ya mu oduro na entretu na entu ase emfama oba o menso se emeye ana wo de akrampo de afi krampo no ebeba mpo age se o charge ado ansa bra mtima fo ba hospital ni mo bi na mi ni mo bi a obo se ne menses na eba born sans gi se ne koto yaresa bia na obi wo be no painkillers ade ba ko se painkillers no ye obi no wo ho a chemicals e wo mo no unum no bebre ko ni pedua no a eno kra timi create stomach ulcer unim se ulcers ni oba best 17 ulcers ayewo batem bia na ebo peptic ulcer dodona ulcer sa ulcers we na tembia ye boso roba mi di ba fa ba hospital I bet you tiri nyina de ama H. pylori emu ano na etete wonam so amonya yefunu hawa bra medimafo aba hospital oba wo pa wo awoduro nyanom bi sabi di bitua bi e wan totope de guo no na ono mampa cho boso me person nshira nka nyame se na eba no edem e de usini akọ bar meka chiro se bema so onya infection na obema no eso te wo se efon a bra medimafo ne mo entudie wi aba mo aduru a bema no so asanso emu asa paja biem wotumi aye adwuma nkɔhwɛ ho akɔmfo sɛ woni sika ntia esan sɛ osisi yɛ adwuma ba bɛyɛ adwuma de ahwɛ o free numbers ne 0244 77 4282 0244 77 4282 and 0500 727215 0500 727215 And our last number is 0245 449592. 0245 449592. Hey, me dima for about hospital. Dr. Time. And that's so there you better say.
Menso meda se cappuccino ena Martin kada sebre ede anopei enkrato eho ede eba owia afi nya bedwafo atena se na ya pensem musem no that's right
right every for years I mama kwa babu na enne bidi ka di ye ho adanse a kire okra nsana edobi nso die se wudi dwa bia wasasu esu wo ya dwuma bia wasasu esu na pese ye bo oja ton die na adwuma dia wudi ho dawura Fabra movement television any wound to me radio Accra ya krado ye bebo ama mansan TV se ya sara no pay ha na nipa nyina ahwe ana manfo nyina etie ntu bibia ye bebo ho dawro wa ha no edu wi asafa na nyina ama mansan te wonka nti se wo ya asori o wo ton ne ma o wo bia adwuma bio bibia wo ye bia no Fabra movement television ni wound to me radio na ye mo ho dawro ma wo na won so so adwuma no ntumpon na fa nipa bebre wo mu na Ghana fo nya wo so mfaso na bi nso ensan koma no na wonti we ye check kwai e okokomlemle ye wo Accra New Town kwa no so se wo free circle na e ba wo fa odo rice a na mkwa no so ba straight a wudru Sadisco traffic light ho na twamu straight na bra wani mbe 200 equal 300 meters we send fa so ba to movement television any wound to me radio e wo ho no ba executive marketing executives no betna se kama na fe nhihye bia sese no yo bia no no waye na aboa ama won susu no yabo wado yaton die no ho dawura na wadwuma wo ye no ho dawuru ama mansan ate won kan ye numbers 0509 301401 0509 301401 bet me so afre yen was 0592 589720 0592 589720 and na 0246 375134 0246 375134 so bra bajo kakra bi na yabo dawru no akira mansan Vision Fund Ghana and a World Vision Ghana wona omosimi fan krato we ma ya hwefo nyina ne yetiefo nyina fi se ebe ya mo ya se obi baba bebu afaso nemre ya sika ho aye den na kakra wa wanya omesa agye World Vision Ghana ni Vision Fund Ghana ba yo mabo Ghana pa ye nipa bebre nyom so emfaso amomo so nya baby pade omo na yesi nanso nipa bonifo bi aka omo di na bobo no ma de akote World Vision Foundation loan nti omo ya mo so ye World Vision fo ye pese ye mawo mwa kakra ye ma abosia na de di uduma na emom so apa abosia se ya ties ka sei fatu ase na ye nyina so ma abosia no bi omo di usika nyina wi a eno ano no be frɛ no bi onu kunkunkun number no enko biu enti World Vision Ghana any Vision Fund Ghana for so omo de omo bi sika de adwuma omo nyine ho sempoa na sa tekunti so bi frɛw no ka cho se World Vision Ghana na Vision Fund Ghana for nti pese ma abosia na first ka sei bra entemu afrɛ wono mo World Vision Ghana no Vision Fund Ghana for no na omuntu ho anamon omo numbers ni World Vision Ghana number 0302 232603 0302 232603 and Vision Fund Ghana number 0508 352002 0508 352002 Mame fa obano enko school ma ha ya do no young executive school na eho na odo ba no kwa hu say yes odo ba na ko school papa udi achechefo na omunu ya no odi akotin pa fi se wo mo na de nimdie ne hyem kwara ne trim ndi so ma no papa ene ne odi nyini no de aba be ya panimpa ye wa achechefo mo kwara ho abotre ne abadaye nti so oba ne hye ne nsem na o kyerɛ na de a eni makoyi papa oba school e mu a kwara ne do mo koba kama ena de ye ade a edimu ba konso ne se ye wo sigbe e wo ho no a nurse fo a omo enim adwuma no mu makogye ntete no e na hwɛ ho ndi se oba yare a nya afa ne ye frɛ se be fa ba kofie eni a ne be hwɛ no na nyimle ya sade no abrew school no mo security eye tight e wo ho ye de CCTV abobo school dan ho nyina classroom bia CCTV camera bo ho ndi ne ekoso school mo bia no school no mpanifo hu nti obi antini nye oba basabasa e wo ho ye wo library enwoma hyemu ma science ne wo computer laboratory e wo ho ye wo science laboratory afei classroom nso emu susu nti nkwara no ho hare wo mo na TV wo classroom bia mu nti mankua no ekoyie your boarding facilities ema maya ene mema ni nyina na de akeka nyina no the ultimate ni say akran be ko school no na wo wie no kwa akotwe so no be nya ko secondary school na no so de ye number 1 so bi e be kwa ko ye bi ya ye tini te fra young executive school ne hwe ne so yi ma o a chin wo ni beji pa ye wo am e be ope kuma junction ka so we ni bakwantim pon no so the numbers 846 071 324 054 071 324 and 0561 807015 0561 807015 na ye be ko school die na etese ye nyoma ye dimba man kwada no so asua de ofie nti se okwaji school die no be fie a na ono so ye de abo anu nti Best Brain Publications Limited wo mo aso ye ne ye kro na yakoto nyoma papa de ama ye ma no asua de Nesu KG1, KG2, Basic 1 to 6, and a JHS 1 to 3. Change school mono. Yansu say our textbook or ha. Yabema or parody snadi. Yet your learning materials out of baby. And then so when your man banu of you know the snadia, I'm an admiral a bien temo. Your bad time, so yeah, baby, except my banu of ye. And I'm so a consultant, am I yenina. Chrono. And a Best Brain Publication. Yawo. I bet the Kwano so I la put you home. Your number is 0507 200 200 0507 200 200 and a 0504 300 0504 200 300. Victory garlic mixture. Victory Yadra. Yadibua 1 year. Yedi karoba nsabuo ensisi so buni sa ne nyema ngomran afe wo ho obi ho ha na ni so ye msi nwantan ona ma wo hu na de mienu sade no were chia se wo kaka ni ya na ehu no dura nyima no so di ka na so obi lati 20 windscreen no so pe kaka no di kwa ko hwewuram afo no nyina mu hia Victory garlic mixture obi won so dura na dura won tumi na obepresa na ade achi de bia o so na no ye basabasa Ope Victory garlic mixture no no ne beboa wo ha na nsa ye otititi na ji so ye se ya je o na wo de pimpin hwa nsa ne mu asane ama otumi nante a Victory garlic mixture ebeboa wo eyi sa ha no nyina afi wo so na bia tuntun adro bia no kwa wo benya bi e wo ho no mo se akra ha na wo na wo pe bi ato akore Past Ventures o kan hye diagle no benya bi ana United Herbal wo ko ha wo benya bi so wo kuma se wo ko PFA pharmacy Polinac Herbal ana Misty Herbal nso a enso so wo benya bi number wo fra won so a wo benya wo no 0242 545 633 0242 545 633 Kwaji Victory garlic mixture no numbi na ohu ento afa ye firi hwa ne ekọ Natural Ventures obna di Congo ointment abano ta Congo ointment yi e bo adwuma papa unya skin rashes wa na ho ye ohini titiri nse ukodware nso kan ho a na honam ahya ase eye ohini kro ajo honam no ya fa na ntema propro hawo empompota abobwo oyi oba omu ana nsuboni bi egu a munyina no munya Congo ointment ya ebebo papa uye be man so ujunso ntoaso ujunso ne mo apa mienu ne bi di se homra ne na mba wonta ade ne bagine ho na esenye kura obenya de wo a yebehwe ndi ka ho na kope Congo ointment twa kwan na fatu ho yare no na won susuru gina wo na so Natural Ventures men kan cho se o hyo me twa kwan na so person frɛ wo ne a number is 0249 017102 sorry 017101 0249 017101 na 0204 616161 0204 616161 yare bia betina wo so ache wakwa enko ama obamu yabu a Exodus moringa capsules any Exodus dandelion capsules eno ene so hwe kira kwan na udi tu sa yare na se ye fra na huna bobirim wakudo nsidu yare no se na ni adin se dian wono ye gangari asa dian wono ene waye no ho purukusu aye no ho botantim oh ni nyina no unya Exodus moringa capsules any Exodus dandelion capsules a ntema ya betu ase ama wonsuso ohu ato eye ntafo aduro nti enumbom anopa mienu ewia mienu anwumere mienu wodi enum ne saa na otwe mienu achi no bohunu senkyereni kese be koso ewe nipadua no mu ebi atun do bi abenya Exodus moringa capsules ni Exodus dandelion capsules ni bi ato na so pe bi atudi anu afre 0544 447033 0544 447033 efi tire mu anigie no home appliances nso kan ho obi ka sa adi ntina me kasa wo fie na wo TV kama si wo hall na wo living room correct me di hwe we di hwe ball di hwe movies di hwe cartoons ani je wo fie ho wo air condition di bo wo living room wo fridge papa wo microwave papa blender rice cooker electric iron electric stove gas stove wo home theater papa wo washing machine a de be na ma wani ni wo fie enti home appliances die wo kuta bi ye enti ano pa ye kanfo high sense amount so pe home appliance bi ato Ghana ha ko high sense wan ko high sense ya home appliance ndi obenye bi ato all right but akoma nto yem na abotom nso enyo so be so to ade no na onya value for money dia a high sense na ese okọ na akokoto no high sense atu om showrooms na peti Ghana ha ba bia da bia me ka se there were 216 mmdas a eje se yen nukra no ye wo home showrooms be se 216 fi se district bia na municipality bia so no high sense e wo showroom ho nti de obeya ni so be form number na wa frɛ wo mo o make sure showroom na ben wo na kwa akoto niema o mo number ni 0302 550 000 0302 550 000 frɛ o frɛ no aka ba bia wo a kyerɛ mo no so a kyerɛ showroom e ben wo na kwa akoto niema ni bi na anigye abafiem na fa lady clean e ma no ntie mian oyo oba ubu nsa ho na gro no hewo ho nyam ye hunu wo ba sima a wo ye nsabuo achi ahusiesie no ya de ehia pa